My brother slapped my son in front of everyone. Like father, like son. Both are useless. He laughed loudly. My dad smirked and said, well, he needed to learn some shame. They didn't know the microphone was on and that I owned the entire school. I fired him, froze Dad's pension, and made them apologize on live TV. You call that parenting? My brother Mason barked, hand still stinging from the slap he'd just landed across my son's face. He talks back once and you let it slide? No wonder he's turning out like you, weak. The gymnasium went silent, the kind of silence that cuts the air into slices you can choke on. My son, Luke, 10 years old, stood there stunned. No tears, just confusion, a red handprint on his face and betrayal in his eyes. Like father, like son, both are useless. Mason laughed loud and hard, leaning into the microphone pinned to his lapel. The one he didn't realize was live. In the front row, my father crossed his arms, gave a slow smirk, and said, well, maybe the boy needed to learn some shame. I didn't move, not yet, but I felt something inside me snap so quietly it almost sounded like peace. I'm Eli Parker, 32 years old. I own this school, not on paper, not in name, fully, legally, quietly. I made my first $2 million before I turned 28. Tech, licensing, then education startups. I kept my name off the walls because I never wanted the spotlight, just a future for Luke that wasn't poisoned by the same bloodline I crawled out of. I didn't plan to be here today. But Luke begged me to come. Said he was performing a small reading. Said Grandpa and Uncle Mason were invited. I didn't expect the trauma to start before the second act. And now I stood there, hearing them laugh, watching my son hurt, knowing full well they still saw me as the family disappointment. They never really saw me at all. The ones who called me family. Mason Parker, 38. My older brother, star athlete, golden boy, hasn't held a real job in years but still lives in a house Dad bought him. He co-signed a loan in my name once when I was 19. Ruined my credit. Never said sorry. Daniel Parker, 62. My father, military man, cold hands, colder eyes. He raised us with belts and backhands, called it discipline, called my panic attacks drama. Karen Parker, 56. My stepmother, smiles in photos, quiet in conflict. She didn't hit us. She just watched it happen. The only person who never made me feel like a burden was my mother. She died when I was 11. After that, I was raised by wolves. The straw that broke everything. Mason stepped off the stage, still laughing, and muttered under his breath, kids today are too damn soft. I walked slowly toward Luke. I knelt, looked him in the eyes. Are you okay? He nodded, but the sting on his face wasn't just from Mason's hand. It was from mine. For not stopping it sooner. A voice in the audience, a teacher, whispered, was that on the mic? Yes, it was on the mic. Everything was. Because 6 weeks ago, I quietly upgraded the school's AV system. New lapel mics, always hot during performances. Today was a test run. Guess we passed. I turned to the crowd. You all heard that, right? My voice was calm, controlled, like a knife resting on a table. The audience stared, unsure. My father folded his arms tighter. Mason scoffed. Oh, what now? You gonna cry about it? He smirked. No. I looked at him. I'm going to fire you. What? You work here. Or rather, you did. You're a gym assistant under a grant my foundation provides. Consider that contract terminated. The room rippled with whispers. Mason laughed nervously. You're bluffing. Check the donor wall. It's under a different name, Parker Adventures. I turned to my father. You know the one that paid off your mortgage last year in exchange for staying out of Luke's life? His smirk cracked. I looked at the audience again, then back at my family. You all want the real story, since they like microphones so much? I stepped to the mic and spoke plainly. When I was 17, Mason crashed a car while drunk and used my ID. I took the rap, got a juvenile record, lost scholarships. Dad said it was for the family. I paid the price. Mason got a football scholarship. I got silence. Gasps. Camera phone's up now. When Luke was born, Dad said he wasn't his grandson unless I got a paternity test. I did. He still never came. Eyes started darting around the room. And Mason? He borrowed 20 grand from my bank account in 2020. Never paid it back. But today he slapped my son for disrespect. That's the legacy you're hearing. I stepped back. No one said a word. I opened my bag, pulled out a flash drive. This contains 3 years' worth of audio. I looked directly at my father and Mason. All the things you said at Thanksgiving, the jokes, the private comments, Mason calling Luke a charity case, Dad saying I was just good at being a beta. I handed the drive to the school's media coordinator, who stood frozen near the AV board. Broadcast this during the final assembly this Friday. Full transparency. Mason lunged at me. My father held him back. You can't do this, my father growled. I already did. Hey, you ungrateful little bastard. My father hissed. No. I looked him in the eye. I'm finally grateful. For distance. Karen finally spoke. Eli, please, this doesn't help anyone. He's 10, I said, pointing at Luke. And you let a grown man hit him. Mason stormed out, slamming a chair over on his way. Dad didn't follow, just stared. You all finally hear me now? I asked. Or do you need another file? The air was colder now. No more laughter. Just consequence. I walked Luke to the car. He held my hand the entire way. Dad? Yeah? Did I do something wrong? I stopped walking. Knelt. You did everything right. He nodded, finally letting one tear fall. I wiped it gently. Back in the gym, the fire was still burning. My phone buzzed with calls I didn't answer. Later that night, I got a text from Karen. He's ashamed. It's the first time I've ever seen him cry. I didn't reply, but I read it twice. A week later, I walked past the donor wall, had them change the name to Luke's Future Foundation. Because it was never about revenge. It was about breaking cycles. I don't know if Mason will ever say sorry. I don't expect Dad to soften, but I do know this. I'm not the broken one, and my son will never grow up believing pain is love. Karen showed up last Friday at our door. She brought cookies and tears. She didn't say much, but she looked Luke in the eyes and said, I'm sorry we failed you. He nodded. He didn't need more. We heal in pieces, but we do heal. And sometimes the microphone has to be on for the truth to finally echo.